cut up your credit cards. Hello and welcome to the Durham Talents channel. My name is Jesse Durham. For another installment of our quote series, Cut Up Your Credit Cards. Let's talk about this idea of cut up your credit cards. Perhaps nobody's made it more famous than Mr. Dave Ramsey, who is preface by saying, a hilarious, apparently seeming, great family man, businessman, Christian, best-selling author, someone who's inspired many, many, many people. Much credit is due to him, and he espouses this idea of cutting up your credit cards, never use credit. I'm not here necessarily to argue one way or the other. The educational direction that we'll take here on the channel, I would say, would be twofold. And this is the perspective that I have when considering a quote or saying of cut up your credit cards. I view it the way Nash lays out his book. If you'll notice when reading Becoming Your Own Banker, he starts with the human element first. And indeed, Dave Ramsey talks a lot about, our nature and our tendencies as well, to his credit. So I believe that is the correct place to start, because no matter how good the numbers are, because math is math, numbers are what they are. I agree. 2 + 2 = 4. Of course. But if human nature, if elements like Parkinson's law or Murphy's law, if we don't account for the Willie Sutton law, people, either legally or illegally, would like to separate us from our money. Identity theft, credit, there are so many different issues out there. That's just one factor is what I'm saying. And another, the idea that income, when it rises, is often met by an equal or even an exceeding amount of expenditure. What I'm saying is, when we earn more, we have a tendency to spend more, and sometimes beyond what it is that we're earning. Once we've enjoyed air conditioning, we don't necessarily want to go back. So again, that's where credit comes in, and that's where human nature comes in. Dave Ramsey, readily, like anyone else with eyes to see or ears to hear, can recognize that discipline or the lack thereof, a system or the lack thereof, the proper entity or the lack thereof, good desires, poor desires. The human problem, as Nash would say, the human problem needs to be addressed first. The golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. Why are folks so reliant on credit? Because they've not systematically set aside capital and used capital well, accounting for the banking function for themselves. As a generality, masses and masses of volumes are spent in interest alone for the things that we're financing in life. So the golden rule applies. So again, there are many different human elements. Use it or lose it. Everything's financed one way or another. Either we conventionally finance it, which Dave is against. We could be against, you could be against, or for it, doesn't matter. But that everything is financed, so that's one way. Dave Ramsey, for example, would be saying, don't go out and put something on a credit card. Don't commercially finance it. Don't get stuck with a car payment instead of, how's he say, you're not owning the car's owning you. That's one way to finance. Pay interest to somebody else by using their money. The other is we set aside our capital, and this would be what's very, very commonly adopted by Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, and others. Set aside cash, because cash is king. No argument there. The golden rule applies. But set aside cash and then use that to go out and buy the car or what have you, which is a step in the right direction. It is better than paying interest to someone else, but that describes the two ways of financing something: paying interest to someone else by using their money, or setting aside the money ourselves and forever losing what we could have earned. In my opinion, what I'm promoting is what we should have earned on that money. See, that is forever gone from our hands, never to return, and we forfeited on being able to earn on that money. So the third option is practice the infinite banking concept. That way we're not dependent on third parties to be able to finance what it is that we want to do. And we're also not losing the opportunity to earn interest on money that we otherwise would. So there's the human element. Now let's get to the mathematical side, because to be sure, and I've heard plenty of arguments, you probably have as well, you probably feel pretty strongly one way or the other. It's like no credit cards, no third party, no conventional financing, or you're all about it, and it's leverage, other people's money, OPM, okay? And that's great. Be your own banker. That's what I'm promoting. Regardless of which camp you're in, which perspective you've adopted and implemented in your life, what I'm saying is account for the banking function. That way you're reconciling human nature, mathematics, to be the most productive that you can be. Because again, everything is financed one way or another. And I'm of the opinion that you should be your own banker. I should be my own banker. So the mathematical side, I'm really not going to get into arguing, well, if I could earn points with this company and I regularly pay off that outstanding amount every month so that I'm not paying any interest, great. What I'm saying is let's look at the human problems and account for them. Nash laid out 5 very important ones to us. And let's also recognize that there are fixed mathematical truths, and that when we recognize that, we don't overlook it, we're not ignorant to it, we use our imagination, we use reason and logic to see what those fixed principles are mathematically, numerically, we can benefit there as well. Keep growing, keep learning, keep reading. And if you would like to continue this discussion to talk about how you could implement the infinite banking concept into your house or your life, regardless of whether your cash is king or OPM, credit, and everything leverage, you can reach me at 828-817-4223, or you can email durhamtalents@gmail.com. This has been a great pleasure for me. I look forward to our next conversation. Have a great day.